They discovered shocking secrets in Leviticus that reveal the hidden truths of faith. Few knew what truly happened that night in the ancient camp of Israel. Under a sky choked with stars, an unsettling tension filled the air. The flickering flames of the campfire cast long shadows, each flicker bursting with secrets untold. This was the night when the divine breathed life into the ordinary, igniting a series of haunting revelations that end the dry wilderness of Sinai. The Israelites stood at the edge of a pivotal moment. They were a people bound by laws, yet craving connection. They had witnessed miracles, the parting of the sea, manna from heaven. But this was different. What lay within the pages of Leviticus stirred something deep, something primal. Could it be that the very rules meant to bind them contained echoes of freedom? The whispers of the congregation grew louder. Among them, a young Levite named Eleazar felt the desperation. He had studied the sacred texts night after night, hoping for answers that would revive the faith of his people. Yet tonight, as he stood before the scrolls, a cold shiver crept down his spine. There were passages that spoke of things better left unspoken. Strange rituals, blood sacrifices, and forbidden feasts. Was the law a pathway to purity, or a prison wrought with terror? Each word washed over him like the Nile's flooding waters, offering both promise and peril. Eleazar's heart raced as he recalled an ancient story passed down through whispers. The tales of fire clinging to the altar and consuming the offerings filled him with dread. What if the gods themselves were challenging the very essence of their belief? What of the red heifer the ashes meant to cleanse? A single mistake could lead to disastrous consequences. The air felt electric, thick with foreboding. Was faith built on ancient words or the very blood of the faithful? The question clawed at him, echoing in his mind. A cry rang out from the gathered crowd, twisting his gut. A young girl, wide-eyed and trembling, gazed into the night. Had she seen something? The flames. They danced with a life of their own. The murmurs shifted into a cacophony of voices, rising and falling like the tides. Fear and wonder battled for dominance in the hearts of the people. Eleazar felt the weight of their gaze. Who could bear this knowledge? Would opening the scrolls unleash horrors? Could hope, buried under the strictures of the law, rise from the ashes? His mind reeled, teetering on the edge of revelation. There was a pull, a desperate yearning for understanding. The sacred text laid bare its treasures, and he knew this was only the beginning. As the fire crackled ominously, the night beckoned. What would they discover next? What hidden truths lurked in the shadows between the words? The path ahead twisted with uncertainty, and Eleazar wondered if they had the courage to follow it. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the flickering flames of the campfire illuminated the solemn faces gathered around, Eleazar stepped forward, spirit emboldened by the electric atmosphere. The air held a weighty silence, pregnant with anticipation, as he unfurled the sacred scroll before him. The parchment, rough yet profound, carried the echoes of generations. It wasn't merely ink and words. It was a living testament of journeys taken, of struggles endured, and of faith sought amidst the barren landscape of wilderness. Listen, he implored, his voice steady yet imbued with urgency. These words are not chains upon our souls, but an invitation to understand the sacred and the ordinary intertwined. He pointed to a passage, aged with time but fierce in its clarity, which spoke of offerings and atonement. The instructions were meticulous, outlining the rituals that had become the lifeblood of their faith. But a shadow crossed his heart. Had they truly understood what was being asked of them? Eleazar hesitated, pondering the paradoxical nature of the laws. They were designed to bring the people closer to the divine, yet so often felt like a chasm. The crimes of their forebears loomed large. The creation of the golden calf, the rebellion against Moses. Were they destined to repeat those mistakes, haunted by the specters of their history? From across the circle, an elder woman stepped forward, eyes glistening with the wisdom of years. "Child, we must recognize that the blood is not merely a price to be paid, but a bridge, a means of reconciling the fractured relationships between ourselves, the land, and our God." Her voice held a tremor, equally authoritative and maternal, soothing yet confronting. The crowd's murmurs quieted as they pondered her words. Was it possible that the horrors sang within the laws were, in fact, reflective of their deepest truths? Perhaps the flames danced not just with fear, but with the light of understanding, beckoning them toward a harmony they had yet to perceive. Eleazar's heart fluttered at her revelation. If the offerings were not just for appeasing an angry deity but for restoring harmony, could they not see the beauty hidden beneath the surface? A sense of urgency washed over him. What if our sacrifices are not in vain? What if they awaken the bones of the weary, releasing the life force of what might still be? His words hung heavily in the air, as each listener contemplated the potential for renewal. The young girl who had first cried out, her fragile frame seeming so small against the enormity of the night, now stepped forward again. But what if the flames burn away more than we are ready to lose? Her voice trembled, questioning the very fabric of what they thought they understood. Secured in a cocoon of uncertainty, the group fell into silence again, a collective exhale of breath echoing through the gathering. Eleazar felt their vulnerability. They were not just afraid of the flames, but of what those flames might consume: doubt, guilt, expectations, and what might arise in their place. Could the acts of atonement, the sacrifices demanded of them, truly lead to a deeper understanding of grace, or were they merely stepping further into chaos? In that surreal moment beneath the vast expanse of twinkling stars, Eleazar discerned the weight of their choice. Beyond the fear that cloaked them lay a profound longing to reconcile their past with a promise of hope. Perhaps this was a tester refining fire that would illuminate not just the divine will but their own arduous paths toward redemption. As the campfire crackled and released wispy curls of smoke into the night, the question loomed larger than before. Could they muster the courage to face what might arise from the ashes of their own hesitant faith? And what transformation awaited them on the other side of fear? As dawn unfurled its gentle embrace across the horizon, the embers of the fire still glowed faintly, whispering the stories of the night. Eleazar found himself awake before the sun, the worries of the previous evening multiplying like shadows in his mind. He pondered the depth of the words, shared what it meant for each soul to confront the flames of their existence and the growing light. He observed the faces around him. Some were lined with fatigue, others sparkled with a flicker of fresh determination. There was a quiet resolve in the air, a collective decision brewing beneath their uncertainty. Eleazar gathered himself, understanding that today's journey would be one of significance, not just for him but for every heart beating in unison with his. As the group began to stir, the elder woman approached him, her brow furrowed with contemplation. "Tell me, Eleazar," she said softly, "what haunts you in our shared quest for understanding?" He sighed, the weight of 1,000 thoughts pressing against his soul. "I fear that we have not yet grasped the full meaning of the laws we are bound to observe. They seem like chains when they should be wings." The elder regarded him, her eyes deep wells of experience. "The laws are like threads in a tapestry. Each strand holds a part of the pattern, but it takes the whole to see the beauty. Have you ever considered that their purpose was not merely to bind us, but to weave our hearts more closely with the divine?" Eleazar nodded slowly, yet a sliver of doubt remained. "And what of our history? The golden calf, the rebellion? How do we ensure we do not repeat these transgressions?" With a gentle smile, she placed her hand upon his shoulder. "To know the mistakes of our past is to be given the gift of choice. Recognition of our failings leads us back to the path. It does not condemn us to wander aimlessly." As the sun edged higher, Eleazar felt his spirit lift, fueled by the strength of their shared conversation. With purpose igniting within him, he gathered the group once again, assembling them beneath the endless sky that seemed to encompass all. "Brothers and sisters," he called, drawing their attention, we stand at the threshold of a greater understanding. Each of us holds within us the echoes of our past, but we also possess the capacity for transformation. He spoke of the sacred scroll, urging them to see not just the rituals described, but the underlying intention echoing with hope and grace. The offerings were not merely duties to appease, but calls to rebuild their fractured relationship with God, themselves, and one another. When we bring forth our sacrifices, he proclaimed, let us do so not from fear of punishment, but from a desire to restore what was lost. The listeners stirred and exchanged glances, a burgeoning fire of curiosity igniting within them. The young girl who had spoken before raised her hand. And when we let go of what we think we know, what awaits us? What if we stand before the Lord and still feel empty? Her vulnerability pierced Eliezer's heart. In our emptiness, we may find the truest form of fulfillment. He replied, confidence building in his voice. It is in surrendering our doubts that we may unknowingly open the door to grace. Perhaps it is the act of giving that fills the void. The elder woman smiled with a knowing twinkle in her eye. And perhaps, in giving ourselves, we discover the tapestry of our faith is richer than we have dared to perceive. But it requires the courage to confront our own darkness and embrace the light. They contemplated her words, the heaviness of their fears mingling with an exhilarating anticipation. The essence of their journey together began to unfurl in ways previously unimagined, each thread weaving them closer. Intertwined in their shared purpose as the sun rose fully, bathing the land in golden light, a new question hung palpably in the air. Could they, together, step into the unknown arms of faith and truly become the tapestry their stories have yet to weave? What glimmers of insight might emerge when they confronted their deepest insecurities? As the warmth of the sun settled upon them, it illuminated the dusty village road that stretched out like a ribbon toward the sacred mountain in the distance. Eliezer looked toward the towering peak, where the whispers of the divine were said to meet the hearts of the faithful. The path ahead held an air of mystery, a promise of discovery for those brave enough to tread it. Let us journey toward the mountain, he suggested, his voice rising with renewed vigor. For there lies not only the shadow of our past but also the light of revelation. Perhaps the scrolls contain more than mere laws. Perhaps they hold secrets to unlock our hearts. With a collective determination, the group began to unfold into motion, stepping in unison as if bound by an unseen string of fate. As they walked, the elder woman paused and beckoned Eliezer to her side. You have begun to inspire them much like a flame ignites the kindling. Yet, do you feel prepared for the revelations that await? The truth can sometimes fracture our understanding before it reshapes it. Eliezer pondered her words, aware of the tender balance between illumination and disarray. I desire truth, yet I fear the splinters it may leave behind. How do we reconcile light with the shadows of our past? The heart, dear Eliezer, is not entirely unlike clay, she replied, her voice a steady balm. To be reshaped, it must first be softened by the warmth of understanding, even if that means confronting the rough edges of grief and guilt as they neared the mountain's base. Eliezer felt the weight of antiquity pressing against him, the stories of failings and triumphs etched into the rock itself. He recalled the sacrifices outlined in Leviticus' meticulous instructions, the rituals. Were these merely obligations, or were they invitations to a deeper connection with the divine? Among the group, murmurs arose as they unearthed the scrolls from wrapped linens. The air was thick with anticipation, and the sunlight flickered through the branches as if the very universe were waiting with bated breath. A young man of bold spirit stood up, parchment in hand, eyes alight with discovery. Listen, he exclaimed, his voice rising above the rustling leaves. It speaks of atonement, and yet we are not limited to offerings alone. It says we may find atonement in our hearts through sincerity. What does that mean for us? A woman replied hesitantly. Can we truly be atoned through our intent? Can the sincerity of our hearts replace the blood of animals? The young man hesitated, and the weight of their gaze pressed upon him like the slow descent of the day. Eliezer, sensing the cacophony of doubts rising, stepped forward. Perhaps what we are uncovering is an invitation to redefine our understanding of sacrifice. The essence of these laws is to lead us to a place of connection, to bring forth our sincerities as offerings. The group gathered closer, the scrolls cradled within their hands as they sought to unlock the layers of wisdom that had been dormant. The intermingling of questions grew, each one revealing the raw essence of their spirit. What if the true sacrifice was not in the material alone, but in the willingness to unveil their deepest truths and share their voices? As the sun started its descent, casting long shadows that danced upon the earth, the moment became heavy with unspoken thoughts. Eleazar felt the urge to set forth one last question that lingered ungrasped yet heavy in the air. What if our faith is both the fortress and the gateway? Can we find freedom in our vulnerabilities, knowing that through honest confession, we might reconstruct our relationship with God and each other? With uncertain eyes, the group looked to each other, contemplating the vastness of what lay ahead. Were they ready to navigate the uncharted waters of their faith? In embracing their uncertainties, might they find deeper truths waiting just beyond the horizon of their understanding? Beneath the twilight sky, as the last light slipped beneath the distant hills, the dusk embraced the group with an air of sacred reverence. The scrolls lay before them, unraveling secrets as if the words themselves were eager to be heard. Each sentence issued forth as a brushstroke upon a canvas of burgeoning understanding, weaving together the complexities of human experience and divine interaction. A gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying the scent of the earth after a day's heat. Eleazar focused on the scroll inscribed with the laws of atonement. In these ancient words lies not just a prescription for sacrifice but perhaps a pathway to inner renewal. He proposed, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. What if forgiveness is as accessible as our willingness to lay bare our truths? The group leaned closer, each heart beating in rhythm with the hope that perhaps they, too, could be healed through the act of vulnerability. A woman, her brow furrowed in deep thought, raised her voice, "But what of our wrongs? How can we approach such a great burden? We cannot merely offer our hearts when our hands have committed such sins." Eleazar met her gaze, recognizing the fear that lingered there, a shadow that tainted the light of their discoveries. Is it not through the very act of confronting our wrongs that we cultivate a space for grace to enter? He replied softly, "The scrolls remind us that the blood of the offerings was only a means to reveal our intention. True atonement begins when we face our missteps with the intention to transform. Can we not see our struggles as symphonies of learning?" The young man, emboldened by the exchange, held up the scroll again, his fingers tracing the ancient letters. "This speaks of the heart, how it can bear witness to remorse. I see now. To atone is to open ourselves, to recognize our flaws not as chains that bind us but as keys that unlock deeper understanding. The sincerity of repentance is the melody, not the act alone." As night enveloped the grove, silence fell among them, each person absorbed in contemplation. The reality of their shared journey resonated in their hearts, a melody of sorrow and forgiveness. A question lingered, soft yet penetrating, echoing through the stillness. What if we can find sanctity in our imperfections, our struggles woven into the fabric of our faith? How do we acknowledge our scars while still believing in healing? Suddenly, the elder woman, who had walked with wisdom etched upon her face, leaned forward. "Ah, but this is indeed the profound paradox we must embrace. The divine does not demand perfection, dear Eleazar, but rather welcomes our authentic selves. In our rawness we find connection. In our confessions we discover community. Each scar is a testament to survival, yet also a beacon for those who tread behind us." The palpable energy in the air shifted as if the mountain itself yielded to their awakening. Questions arose about their collective stories. Would they share their lives, unguarded and vulnerable? Could they offer their narratives without fear of judgment, inviting others to reflect upon their own journeys? As the moon began its ascent, casting a silver hue across their gathering, Eleazar sensed a new horizon unveiling itself. In our desire to define faith, might we uncover that the journey itself is the sacred practice? If our strength lies in our willingness to walk through the ambiguity, how then do we prepare ourselves for what lies ahead? Among the gathering, realizations took hold like roots spreading in fertile soil. They were confronted not just with the scrolls, but with their own hearts, and the pathway before them revealed uncharted territories of connection awaited. Could they embrace the implications of their discoveries, unearthing hidden truths about their faith, their community, and ultimately themselves? As the moonlight bathed the grove in a cool embrace, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Each member felt the shift, an electric pulse within their shared silence. The air was pregnant with untold potential. Eliezer, aware of this newfound energy, spoke with a gentleness that matched the serenity of the night. What lies beneath these scrolls is not merely historical record of ancient rituals, but a mirror reflecting who we are today. If we seize these revelations, we must be willing to embark upon a deeper inquiry. His voice carried, a thread weaving through each listener's soul, provoking thoughts that had long flickered in the recesses of their minds. The woman who had first voiced her fears piped up again, her tone softer now, tinged with hope. But how do we discern what is truly meant for us? These laws, these rituals, are they not just guidelines from an age-long past? Eliezer pondered her question, recognizing its weight. Perhaps they are both guidelines for a different era and seeds for our own hearts to cultivate. To discern, we must go deeper, beyond the surface of duty, into the essence of intent. Are we not called to perceive the spirit of the law rather than just its letter? The young man from earlier chimed in, excitedly animated. Yes, but how do we uncover that spirit? It's one thing to read the scrolls, but another to breathe life into them, to embody what they teach. Perhaps we should share stories, each of us relating moments in our lives where we felt the divine weave through our trials. Eager murmurs rippled through the group, each participant moved by the prospect of unveiling their pasts. They began to exchange tales, recounting instances when their hearts had been heavy with the weight of guilt or fueled by the fires of shame. Each story became an offering, a flicker of vulnerability illuminating the darkness of isolation. An older man, known for his gentle demeanor, shared how a miscommunication had driven a wedge between him and his son, years passing by without words exchanged. I was filled with pride, convinced I was the righteousness of the law. But what I failed to realize was the deeper law of love that calls us to reconcile, to make amends. Dedicating burnt offerings could not mend my soul. It was in the act of seeking forgiveness that I found redemption. His words resonated within the circle, stirring hearts and memories. One by one, stories poured forth of lost loves, brows furrowed under the weight of unspoken truths, and battles waged against despair. The more they spoke, the more the scrolls danced in the twilight weave of their testimonies. The sacred and the mundane entwined as the night deepened. Eliezer sensed that they were edging closer to an unsettling truth. Have we been blind to the fact that our greatest wounds might lead us to the most profound revelations? How often have we clung to the laws as if they were the secure boundaries of faith? Yet here we stand, transformed by the voices of those who dared to step outside those confines. A ripple of contemplation washed over the group, tilting their understanding. Could the very essence of their faith lie not in strict observance, but in the vulnerabilities they shared? Was it possible that in their openness, the scrolls breathed and unveiled lessons yet unseen? The elder woman spoke again, her voice infused with a new weight. Our fears of judgment often keep us from sharing our truths. In this gathering, we have unveiled not just our lessons but the sacred ability to embrace one another as we are, flawed yet striving. What if our journey as a community was less about the dictates of the law and more about our shared humanity? As these thoughts settled, a larger question loomed in the corners of their reflections. A lingering inquiry that promised the dawn of understanding but would require further exploration. What if, in embracing our stories and honoring our imperfections, we unlock a deeper connection to one another and to the divine? How do we move forward with courage, armed with the knowledge that our struggles do not diminish the sanctity of our faith but enhance it? The moon rose higher, casting an ethereal light that threaded through the branches, illuminating the faces of those gathered. The flickers of vulnerability ignited warmth among the group, each heart drawing nearer to the other, stitched by the common fabric of shared experience. Yet amidst this warmth, a shadow of unknowing mystery nested within the text, waiting for their unfurling. With a shared breath, Eliezer looked around, his eyes catching on each individual in the circle. We have laid bare our eyes and hearts to one another. Yet I feel the text continues to call us deeper. Could it be that our stories are the key, a lens through which we may behold the truths buried in these scrolls? A stillness embraced them, and an unspoken understanding rippled through the group. How astonishing, they pondered, that sacred words, seemingly routine as mere ritual, could be portals to profound realization. Among them, a thought began to sprout: what if each law contained echoes of their own struggles, and the nuances of their lives wove the fabric of connection to the divine? One of the younger women, inspired and eager, broke the silence. Perhaps we can each select a particular law from the scrolls and explore what it reveals in our lives. What lessons lie concealed in these words concerning love, judgment, and compassion? When we read Leviticus aloud, can we construct bridges from those ancient commands to our present reality? Encouraged by her suggestion, the group began to sift through the scrolls carefully laid out before them. Words unwound slowly, each phrase illuminating both their histories and futures. As they read verses on offerings, purity, and the call to community purification, each phrase seemed to resonate differently, breathing life into their wanderings and illuminating their paths with meaning. An elderly man, drawing upon his wisdom, recounted the concept of clean and unclean. How often we partition ourselves between the righteous and the flawed, the included and the excluded. But what if these separations are merely reflections of our own inner conflicts? Is it possible that to heal ourselves, we must first acknowledge our shared human experience, recognizing what's unclean in us also exists in others? With every shared reflection, the atmosphere turned richer, as if unseen forces tugged at their hearts, inviting further inquiry. Another man, a quiet spirit until now, shared, "In my moments of bitterness and doubt, I felt far from the divine." Yet here we recognize that these very feelings may align with the teachings, the struggle shaping our reliance on grace. How does one truly embody the law of love if one never grapples with the feeling of distance? At once, the gathering stirred with the tension of a revelation that laced their conversations. They began to see the scrolls not just as a mere record of laws but as a mirror reflecting their journeys in the light of humanity. Yet a palpable tension remained as Eliezer posed an enticing yet unsettling question. If the laws allude to love and compassion while addressing the struggle of human nature, can we genuinely claim to understand their essence without embracing the dark corners of our hearts? How do we reconcile these truths? The group, saturated with newfound insight, shared contemplative glances, uncertain yet drawn ever deeper into this unfolding narrative. The mysteries of the scrolls, they realized, were not meant to be dissected in isolation, but were to resonate within the depths of their shared experiences. But as they delved deeper, the ultimate enigma remained: a question that vibrated like a whispered secret woven throughout their stories. Can embracing the complexities of our human experiences truly guide us closer to the heart of divine love? Or will we find ourselves forever tethered by our fears? As the moon brightened, illuminating the clearing, the air grew thick with anticipation, each person silent yet vibrant with thoughts. Alone in their reflections, layered within the scriptures, new questions began to blossom like flowers breaking through the winter frost. For all their stirring contemplations, an unasked question lingered just beyond the surface. What if the scrolls held truths about the divine that had not yet dawned upon them? Emboldened by the stirring of the group's hearts, Eliezer spoke once more. Let us not only consider what the laws reveal about ourselves, but also what they tell us about God. How can we see ourselves in the light of His intentions? Each command, each decree surely carries a whisper of the divine purpose. The elderly man, whose voice carried the weight of many seasons, pondered aloud. In the instructions regarding offerings, is it not a testament to God's desire for relationship? Each requirement for sacrifice, from the simplest birds to the most prized lambs, may signify that He asks for our very best in return. Is it not allegiance we are offering, a covenant reflecting the depths of our devotion? Conversing grew lively as people gestured, recalling examples from their own lives that mirrored the call for loyalty. A woman with hands worn from toil interjected, "Just as the fields yield their harvest under the sun, we, too, must bring forth our offerings. Yet do we truly lay down our valuable time, our fractured trust, and even our scattered dreams and faith. Encouraged, the group lifted their thoughts higher and started connecting the strings between biblical lessons and their supposed purpose. They dissected further, examining the heavier text, the purity laws. What if these laws about the clean and unclean were not merely about physical cleanliness but also a powerful metaphor? A younger man piped up. Could it be about how we are to perceive our interactions with each other? Our prejudices, assumptions, and biases taint our understanding. Soft murmurs of agreement rippled through the group, and a new resolve filled the air. They began to see each law as a touchstone guiding them back toward harmony with their neighbors and, ultimately, with God. The seeds of compassion that they had so tenderly planted in their hearts began to grow. Perhaps, suggested the quiet one, these laws are not restraints but invitations to encounter grace in the rawness of our humanity. Yet the atmosphere shifted, drawing tighter as Eliezer challenged them gently. What if our humanity, our needs, and scarcest part of what allows us to reach the heart of love? Does the sacred call for purity not illuminate how we grapple with our imperfections? Can we, in our struggles, find refuge in a God who sees beyond that which is unclean? The question remains. How do we navigate the need for purity, grace, and our very real imperfections? As the night blanketed them once more and the stars twinkled like ancient promises, the lingering depth of these questions settled upon them like a fog. The merging of their thoughts painted a complex tapestry. The verses were alive, and within them lay the raw honesty of their experiences intertwined with divine longing. Each response added weight to the atmosphere, yet the pivotal mystery burned brightly alight, inviting them inward. The questions evolved into an unyielding pulse beneath their skin. How could they embrace the multifaceted nature of faith while still fostering openness with their flaws? Did accepting the duality of purity and imperfection draw them nearer to the divine, or would it leave them in perpetual conflict? Contemplating these thoughts, they felt the gentle breath of uncertainty brush against their souls, urging them onward into a deeper understanding that lay just beyond the edge of their comprehension. The night wrapped around them, echoing the mystery embedded within the scrolls. In the journey to reconcile purity with brokenness, where does the heart of faith truly lie? As dawn's light filtered through the trees, casting a golden sheen over the dewy grass, the group found themselves reluctantly leaving the warmth of their dialogue. Yet, the weight of their discoveries lingered, woven into the very fabric of their being. With hearts still alight with questions and reflections, they gathered once more in the clearing, drawn anew by the promising rays of sunlight and the call to delve deeper. Eliezer, his presence magnified by the soft glow of the morning, began to speak again. What if our understanding of the laws and the divine is akin to piecing together a grand tapestry? Each thread, each story, and every commandment are uniquely woven to create a revelation far greater than ourselves. The scrolls teach us something profound about our existence, and perhaps they beckon us to seek the divine mystery that dwells within our own struggles. As he spoke, a flicker of realization illuminated the faces around him. A woman named Miriam, with eyes often cast downward, found her voice rising with a new fervor. Could it be that the very laws which seem so distant are also deeply intimate? Each time we stumble, it may not be just failure, but an invitation, not punishment, but a loving call to rise again with renewed strength. The call to purity could be a call back to wholeness, to communion with our Creator. In response, young David, who had long wrestled with feelings of unworthiness, clenched his fists as he exclaimed, "But what of the shadows that linger? How do we reconcile our moments of weakness and doubt with the beauty we are called to reflect? In the presence of such high standards, do I not sometimes feel crushed beneath the weight of expectation?" The group fell into thoughtful silence, the weight of David's words hanging heavily in the air. Deep within this contemplative space, a realization began to stir how often they had missed the connection between each law and the story of humanity itself. The sacred dance of grace and truth. An elder named Ruth, wise with years yet still eager to learn, shared softly, "Let us not forget that the scrolls, in their rigorous detailing, underscore something pivotal. God's pursuit of us is relentless. Each reminder of what is pure and what is not is an echo of His unfailing grace. Are we invited to see not just where we fail, but also how He seeks to guide us from our wandering? Her words sparked a ripple of introspection within the hearts of those gathered. The morning light swirled among them, wrapping them in warmth as they considered their myriad imperfections, those very gaps that could be transformed into bridges connecting them to each other and, ultimately, to Giotto. As they ventured further, questions unfurled like petals, revealing deeper layers. What if the focus on law was less about adhering perfectly to commands and more about fostering a heart that is willing to realign? Did the scrolls whisper of a compassionate God who recognizes their journey, embracing them wherever they are along the path of faith? Suddenly, the air around them thickened with purpose, stirring memories of stories etched in the creased papyrus of their minds, the tales of mercy, redemption, and divine longing. Silas, a reflective soul eager for understanding, ventured, "Might our struggles and our journeys be precisely the crucible through which our true faith is forged? What if in the spaces between law and life, in grappling with our shortcomings, we meet God in ways we never expected?" Once again, the group was cocooned in thoughtful silence, contemplating the weight of his question. Channeling their individual narratives into a single shared moment, they began to form a collective awareness. The strain between purity and the messiness of human lives could indeed be the sacred ground upon which their conversations with the divine were built. As sunbeams danced upon their faces, illuminating their intertwined fates and newfound understanding, they were struck by a lingering thought. How do we allow the complexities of our imperfections to coexist with the call to holiness? Does the act of holding space for both contribute to a fuller expression of faith, or does it challenge our understanding far beyond what we are ready to accept? Their hearts remained eager yet uncertain, steadfastly woven into the unfolding narrative that was yet to be revealed. As the flares of dawn shattered the darkness with trails of gold, the assembly of souls stood at the confluence of the sacred and the ordinary, poised for a revelation that would forever alter their understanding of faith. Eleazar, emboldened by the ebb and flow of their shared questions, sensed that the scrolls lay brimming with a wisdom that transcended the confines of law. The air thrummed with possibility. They were no longer merely interpreters of ancient edicts, but explorers on the edge of a profound spiritual journey. "Gather close," he implored, his voice infused with urgency and reverence, "for we are on the cusp of unveiling something remarkable. This morning is not just about obedience. It is an invitation to encounter the heart of our God." As the sun crested the horizon, casting radiant tendrils of light across their weary and yearning faces, Eleazar unfurled the sacred scroll, revealing the message woven into its very fabric. Listen closely. In the passages that speak of sacrifice, we find not prescriptions for duty but invitations to transformation. What if every law serves as a guide to rekindle our connection with the divine? The murmurs of intrigue swept through the gathering. Their eyes gleamed with a mix of skepticism and wonder. Could our understanding of sacrifice be wrong? A voice echoed from the back. Perhaps, Eleazar replied, establishing a bridge of grace in their contemplations. What if the pulse of these texts calls us not to a lifeless ritual but to an awakening of our spirit? The blood of lambs and the grains of barley may just be pathways toward embracing our true nature, broken yet beautiful, lost yet found. In this delicate moment, an elder named Miriam rose. Her age-worn hands gently clutched the fabric of her robe, a testament to the battles she had fought and the wisdom she had garnered. Do we dare believe that we can offer our pain, our disappointments, our very human selvices, our truest sacrifices? Must we not learn to see our scars as sacred markers of our journeys? Her words ignited a flicker of hope in the community's heart. Each person recalled their own struggles, a chorus of humanity rising within them. The lost loves, the unhealed wounds, each seeking acknowledgement. What if our brokenness, laid bare before the Almighty, becomes the vessel through which grace flows? David ventured, leaning into the challenging space of vulnerability that enveloped them as their discussions deepened. The scrolls revealed a profound truth: sacrifice was not merely about what was lost but about the reclamation of their hearts, the acknowledgement of their humanity dancing amid divine aspirations. Each soul began to radiate the understanding that the laws set forth were not markers of condemnation but signposts towards reconciliation and healing. Yet, the air still shimmered with the remaining tension. The sacred texts had laid open an inquiry. Are we prepared to approach these laws not just as rules but as an invitation to a transformative relationship with God? Gathering strength, Eleazar spoke once more, the urgency of truth driving his voice as he proclaimed, "Today, let us decide. We may shed the chains of guilt that bind us, choosing instead to rise beyond fear. In our weaknesses lies the power to connect. In our confessions rests the potential to heal." The crowd leaned in, hearts swaying in a potent current of realization. Together, they pondered. If freedom was to be found through vulnerability, could they collectively confront the shadows that haunted their gatherings, the whispers of inadequacy that often stifled their spirits? What if, Eleazar continued, emboldened by their earnest engagement, we give ourselves permission to trust in God's grace, despite our imperfections? We are not defined by our failures, but by the love that beckons us to rise from each misstep. As he spoke, the realization dawned upon them like a shaft of light piercing through a canopy of trees. They were not alone in their struggles. They were each a thread in the intricate tapestry of existence, their flaws and triumphs, intertwined to create something beautiful. Encouraged by this epiphany, they took a collective breath, feeling the warmth of grace settle upon them, as if a blanket woven from hope had been draped over their shoulders. Miriam stepped forward again, her eyes shining with clarity. "Then we must not keep this revelation to ourselves. Let us gather our neighbors, our families, even those with whom we have grievances, and share this heart of connection we've unearthed." Imagine the ripples that could spread when many voices rise in a chorus of vulnerability and love. And as they spoke, an unexpected twist emerged. A spark ignited within them to rise as a collective force of change. They resolved to make a pilgrimage to the broader community, fearless and raw, ready to embrace each other's stories, to celebrate their imperfections, and to illuminate their strengths. The surrounding landscape awakened with their resolve, sunlight streaming through every nook and cranny of the wilderness. Eleazar felt the stirring urgency pulsating within him, mingled with the weight of purpose. As we share our truths, may we testify to the transformative power of grace that reinvigorates hearts and fosters community, he declared, confidence surging through him. As they began their journey, the scrolls in hand, Eleazar understood that the words contained within were alive, inspiring their hearts to action, beckoning them to embrace the sacred exchange of love that transcended law. The very nature of faith was unfolding before them. It was more than instruction. It was an eternal dance between humanity and the divine. And so they marched, a resolute band of humble seekers, not just towards community but into the arms of love itself, a love that could redeem the lost, heal the broken, and set free the imprisoned. The sacred scrolls, once seen as chains, now spiraled upward like vines, intertwining their lives into a glorious tapestry that echoed with eternity. In their collective echo, a revelation crystallized. A powerful transformation had taken root. They were reminded that amid the laws of Leviticus, a heavenly invitation awaited, one that called them not just to obey, but to love deeply, forgive fully, and embrace the wild beauty of their existence together. As the first rays of the sun poured down upon them, illuminating the dusty path leading to the mountain, each member of the assembly felt their hearts intertwined in a radiant tapestry of hope newly woven beneath a sky of endless possibility. And thus, they strode forth, burning bright with the fire of grace, ready to illuminate the world with the unyielding truth that love endures and transforms, eternally echoing through the ages.